Hey everyone, it's Laurel Beard here, and today I'm here with a winter-themed acrylic block stamping card, and this is the card that I'm going to be making today in the video, focusing mainly on that background there. I love distress inks, as you know, so I wanted to go ahead and create a nice winter-themed sky. So I'm using an acrylic block. This is some Tim Holtz watercolor paper, and I'm using the smooth side. And then I'm going to grab my distress inks, and I'm going to go with the blue family here. I keep them all, I have all the minis now, and I keep them in these cute little tins. And I'm going to go with 4 or 5 different color blues because, again, I want this to be a winter-themed card. I'm also going to be using some of the new creative cuts from Winnie and Walter. They're die cuts, and I'm using the Big, the Bold, and Seasons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little distress ink pads. If you have the regular pads, you can totally do it with the regular pads as well. And I'm going to just start applying the colors. I'm going to have them start darker at the top and then go all the way down to the bottom to the lighter color. So I do Chip Sapphire, Faded Jeans, Stormy Sky. My final color is going to be Tumbled Glass. I'll have all the exact colors linked up in my blog post. So I'm just making sure I've had enough ink on my acrylic block there, and that's just a mister filled with regular water. And I'm going to mist it until you see the puddles. You see all the bubbles starting to form on the ink there? So I misted it maybe 5 or 6 times from a couple feet above. And then I'm going to press my cardstock there. Again, this is watercolor paper. You're going to get the best results with watercolored paper. You can try it with regular cardstock, but the results won't be as good as you would if you use the watercolor paper. And I'm just kind of letting it seep in there for about 10 seconds. I want to make sure that the watercolor seeps into the cardstock there. So I'm just using a rag so I don't get it all over my fingers. And when you peel it up, you're going to see all these different colors, and it doesn't really look all that pretty now, but it's going to turn out pretty. And what I've learned is the messier it looks before while it's wet, the more beautiful it is when it dries. So I'm going around the edges and kind of dabbing off some of those intense puddles there because I don't want them too intense. And then I'm going to zap this with my heat gun. Again, it doesn't look all that pretty right now, but as it dries, it will dry lighter. And then we're going to do some more blending with some water. And that is why I'm using distress inks. You could try this with regular inks, and you'll maybe get a pretty ombre effect. But when I go in with the next step and add water, it's not going to work with the regular inks. Distress inks are formulated to react with water. So now that I've got my panel all good and dry with my heat gun, again, doesn't all look that great yet, but just wait. This is where the magic comes to play. What I'm going to do is I am going to first trim down my paper because I need it to fit in the middle of a card. See how pretty that background's going to look when we're done? I promise it's going to look good. So I went ahead and trimmed it down off camera. So we're at 4 inches even by 5. I'm sorry, we're at 3.75 by 5. I wanted to show you the dimensions. I'm going to have it sit in the middle of a nice card, gray card base. So now here's where the magic happens. I went ahead and die cut that Winnie and Walter die, the Big, the Bold, and Seasons. I love their new die line, by the way. It's fantastic. And making sure it's going to fit on my card base there. Now this is a Perfect Pearls mix that I already have. I already bought. You can use Perfect Pearls and water and make your own. And what I'm doing is just putting it on my fingers and just flicking it. You can use a paintbrush if you want. I don't care about getting my hands all dirty. And I'm just flicking. I am flicking the mess out of that card base. So again, if you don't want to use your hands, you can totally saturate a paintbrush and flick it on that way. So as I'm cleaning my workstation, the distress ink and the Perfect Pearl mixture is reacting together. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Again, if you used any other inks beside distress inks, this is not going to work. You can just skip this whole step altogether. But with the distress inks, this is the magic. They're like magical inks. So now I'm taking a cloth and kind of dabbing away some of that, the puddles of that Perfect Pearls mist. You can use regular water if you want to, but I wanted a really cool magical night sky, so I chose to go with Perfect Pearls. I'm just sort of dabbing that away, and as it dries, it just all blends together and it softens, and it's just gorgeous. And your recipient is going to be left wondering how in the world you created that background. And that's the beauty with distress inks. They blend perfectly together, and then when you add water, it just does all of the work for you. I decided that winter needed its own set of sparkles on it as well, so I'm using some Wow embossing powder here. And I want to kind of coat that winter with some embossing powder. So I'm just going to take my Versamark ink pad, which is just a sticky clear ink, and I'm going to press it directly onto my die cut. I'm going to do it twice. Want to make sure it's all nice and sticky. And then I'm going to sprinkle that wow embossing powder directly onto my die cut, and then I'll heat set it. And it's going to leave it with such a pretty, pretty, pretty sparkle. Very subtle, but I think it ties nicely into the card. Since this is a fairly simple card, the background is the showstopper here. I wanted just to add a little bit more to punch up that little die cut. So I'm taking a cue from Jennifer McGuire, and I always do my embossing powder over these coffee filters. It makes it very easy cleanup. She has some really great organizational tips, I have to say. She's my little organizing idol. So that's all nice and heat set, and I'll give you a close-up in a second. But with these filters here, you can use regular paper too. Anyway, with these filters, I just funnel it back in, and then I throw the filters away. I know, some people think that's wasteful, but you get like 500 in a pack. I know. Use paper if you want, if you're against wasting, but aren't you wasting paper too? So anyway, there, that winter's all nice and pretty and sparkly. Ah, so pretty. Hope you can see that sparkle there. So what I did off camera, which I didn't really catch, was I adhered that down with some Ranger Multi-Matte Medium Glue, and then I added a couple of rhinestones there. I added one to the eye for the dot of the eye, and then just sprinkled a couple more up at the top, and that's the card. I think it's so pretty. I love that background. I think I'm going to try to mass produce it with some bright, maybe sunset colors. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.